Hey, friends, welcome back to the Christian Music Industry Podcast. And I'm your guide in the Christian music industry, Wisdom Moon. And I'm really excited to have our guest here today. And I have to actually get used to her new last name because she's had a lot of changes in her life. Uh, and I'm excited to have Morgan Hill. Hey, Morgan.
Yeah. Hey, Wisdom.
I actually got it right.
It's easier than my maiden name for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Morgan and I actually go way back. We actually started at Integrity Music like a week or two apart from each other,
Hmm.
and we were the one of the only three Integrity staff in Nashville at the time. And then I think maybe a year later, they pretty much moved everybody else from Colorado Springs to Nashville. So yeah, we got to just journey together. Working in initially the same department and then two separate departments and then the same department. So
It was a lot of
we,
back and forth.
yeah, yeah, we've seen a lot of change and got to work with a lot of awesome artists and churches together. And I thought it'd be really fun to talk to Morgan today because now Morgan is at Bethel Music as the marketing director, and she's just moving on up. Making moves.
I'm trying to make the world a better place,
Yeah.
one song at a time.
Yeah. So, Morgan, I guess I would love for you to share with us how you got into the Christian music industry.
Yeah. So I went to school to do music business. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I was always creative growing up. And my dad bought me a guitar at 17, and I just started writing songs and playing music and leading worship at my youth group. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to write songs, just like totally in it. And then it came time to figure out, well, what am I really going to do with my life? Because my dad's like, can you go to college to do that? And so yeah, I just went through a couple years of undergrad just doing basic stuff, and then was like, I want to move to Nashville. I think that's where I need to be, and did the music business program. And funny enough, I my last semester of school got an internship at Integrity and was helping out their creative publishing guy, and just kind of kept in touch. And that internship ended, and I went to go work at Sony ATV doing royalty admin. And God bless all of the administrators in the world because that's not a job for me. My brain was like, whoa, this is way too many numbers, and I don't know where they go, and this is like a different language. So I'm calling Integrity, like, do y'all have any jobs? Like, I'll do anything. And it's funny how it all works out because I ended up getting a job at Integrity, and I was hired on as a temp at Sony
Mm.
ATV. And 2 months later, they let all their temps go.
Oh,
So
wow.
the Lord really provided a way for me in that. And so I joined the Integrity team full time in February of 2015 and started in like song publishing, A&R, then moved over to doing song marketing, which was more church resource, then kind of moved into doing We Are Worship, which is the resource arm of Integrity, then moved into marketing, managing, and so I'm like marketing all these artists and these projects. And so over a 7 year time span,
Mm.
that's how I got from point A to whatever point in the alphabet we're at now. So,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I think uh, I have seen a lot of people, that go to a college to do music business or whatever, like music industry related thing. And sometimes there's too much reliance on your degree, and they
mhm.
feel like the degree is just gonna get them in the door. But I feel like the way you approached it was really how I feel like is really effective. Doing an internship where you get some real life experience at a company, and then you were able to really continue those relationships, and they brought you back on
Hmm.
staff, and I feel like you really thrived, at Integrity, and it was cool to see you going from your like starting out role to like even after I left, you switched roles and got
Yeah.
into like more of the marketing manager role, and yeah, and I've actually talked to one of my clients, Lindsay Automac, and
Hmm.
she was telling me how you were just so instrumental in helping them, with their release date and just like late at night, you guys were trying to like create all these like assets and working
Yeah.
hard, and yeah, so I think for both of us, Integrity, like we developed so many great friendships there and got
Hmm.
to learn a lot there. I feel like there was always something new going on, always
Hmm.
something like changes, and yeah, I feel like those were some of my just like good memories, of like being in Nashville, is just getting to
Yeah.
work with all my friends. And what would you say, looking back, is one of your like best memories of like working together?
Um. Oh man. All the pranks are the best part for me personally. Like outside of the work.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. It's funny how like you stay connected with those people. Like I just talked to Cole yesterday, and we're talking now.
Mm,
Like I talked to Dave and all these people that we no longer work together, but we're still friends, and like we cultivated a friendship within our work environment, which I think is really special. But um I think, yeah, I don't know. There's a few things, just like the We Are Worship tour was really fun. I don't think any of us had really
mm,
done anything like that before. And it's fun to be out on the road and to take what you're doing in an office and see the fruit of it in like real transformation in people's lives. And so that was a lot of fun.
yeah.
Um, and conferences are all, that was fun. And I think as I moved into like the more marketing driven roles, just the collaboration of team like is always super fun, but the pranks were like next level. And I'm sure there's a few that I probably can't talk about, but um I mean the ones we pulled on Mike Murray were pretty great. We put an air horn underneath his chair and he sat down on it, and we had a GoPro set up, a laptop, a phone, like we got multiple angles. I haven't laughed that hard yet at Bethel, but I'm sure it's coming. We gotta. I'm not even a year in, so we gotta warm up to that. But just like the spirit of friendship and not taking yourself too seriously every day was so fun. And
Yeah.
those are like I'll never forget about any of that. So
Yeah.
those good memories.
Yeah, oh man, the pranks. Yeah, I don't know how we got so creative. I think that really helped us be more creative on the marketing
Yeah, yeah,
side.
we'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really funny about that prank is he sat down in his chair and it felt different to him, so he was trying to figure it out. And then I was at his door with the coffee mug, just trying to, stay cool. And he was like, "Yeah, somebody messed with my chair, and something's wrong with it." And I was like, "Why don't you just stand up and sit back down, and like maybe sit down harder because it didn't go off when he first sat down." So he sits down like really hard, and the air horn just goes
Yeah.
off, and he flies off the chair.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, and yeah, we do have multiple video angles of that.
And
So
Wisdom's just like hiding behind a coffee mug, like he's holding a mug like this, like trying not to bust out laughing in front of Mike. And oh man, it was, yeah, too good.
yeah, I feel like one thing that is important, but like not a lot of people really talk about it, is being able to like have fun, while you're doing hard work and like important work. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've been kind of retiring from the pranks, so I miss those.
Same. It's just not like maybe I've just grown up, but I feel like we always have to get, like you have to have childlike faith. Well, I think you have to have
Yeah,
childlike humor sometimes,
yeah,
and there's always something serious that can be going on, and you just got to balance it out with a little bit of
yeah,
laughter.
yeah. Amen to that. So yeah, you now are the marketing director at Bethel Music, and I was actually telling somebody today that I saw Brian and Jen Johnson like long time ago before I even got married at a conference in California. It was maybe like a couple hours away from Reading, and it was Brian and Jen, Bill Johnson. They led a conference together, and at that time there was no Bethel Music. It was just Brian and Jen Johnson, and it was their independent project they put out. And then I think maybe a couple years later, Bethel Music was announced, and then there's been some legendary songs and artists that have come out of that movement. So what's something, since you're so like fresh into that organization and that ministry, what's something that you've learned or found out about that you didn't expect? Maybe it was like a
Mm,
surprise to you.
that's a good question. I will say this organization and this group of people are some of the most creative people I've ever met. And
Mm,
when I sit down and think through, like Jen will have she'll have a whole like list of projects she wants to do, or she'll, like get a word from the Lord and she'll give it, expand that to us. And then it's just like, this is what this means. And then you bring in like the visual team and they just take something from a word or just like out of nothing and make this incredible piece of music or this video.
mm,
And I think that I think we always knew that Bethel was creative. Like you look at their work in the past, and we will not be
yeah,
shaken on this mountaintop of recording a
yeah,
project on a mountain. And I'm like, who would do that? But then you're in this little world, and behind the scenes, you're seeing all these people talk about all these just the creative knowledge that these people have is insane to me. And I can just be like, "Hey, I have an idea." And they take it and they've like made it 10 times better. And then I don't have to think about it or the pressure's not on me, which is amazing.
mm,
But I
yeah,
think that's something that has really surprised me is just, I think one, how intentional every move is of just like
mm,
being like trusting the Holy Spirit, but then also given the freedom to be creative and interpret what things feel or say. So that's been the most surprising is, and maybe even just the most like rewarding is getting to watch this creativity bloom.
that's cool. Yeah. So do you remember how many releases you've been there for so far?
Yes. Five,
Oh
five, I
wow,
think. Yeah.
that's more
Which
than
now,
I thought you were going to say.
yeah, thinking back, I'm like, that is a lot. And I've only been here for less than a year. Well, I guess it'll be a year and a couple of weeks, but yeah, 5. And some of
Wow.
those were more artist projects, and some of them were like Bethel Music
Yeah.
Comp projects. But yeah, I've been here for about 5 of those.
Awesome. So, uh, right now we're doing a series about releasing music as a church, and obviously, like Bethel Church is a church. Bethel Music is now like a whole nother beast. I feel like it's like a label, and I don't think people as much associate like Bethel Music with the church nowadays.
Mm,
Like it's a separate entity, which is awesome. But when you think about, because we've together worked on a lot of like church releases and different even like compilation projects and things like that. When you think about releasing music at a church, what are some things that you feel like maybe like a lot of people that you've seen aren't really thinking through, or maybe feel like, oh, this is something that every church should be aware of, especially on the creative and like marketing side of things.
Yeah, I think when you sit down and you get ready to release a project from your church, it has to have the DNA of the church in it, and
Mm,
it it doesn't need to feel like another church or another part of what you're doing, or like something that's super aspirational that you're trying to chase after. I think the most authentic and honoring thing you can do is release what your church is going through or singing through or whatever that is.
mm,
So that I think that's like one of the first things is like, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you releasing it just
yeah.
because you want your church to have music, or you're releasing it because you want a song to blow up and go big? Really figuring out why you're doing it. And I think something that's kind of important, if you want to take your music a little bit further and wider, is what's the story that God is telling you, and do you feel like you have the permission to tell that story to a greater audience? Because some things need to be
Mm,
left, in the walls of your church for your congregation and
yeah.
community. But I think the Lord does bless some of those things where He's like, yes, go take this further and wider. It's going to reach beyond what you could imagine. And so figuring out too, like, what it is that you want to share. But I think the story piece is a big piece of it. Of, does your church have a story they need to tell? Like, I think about New
Mm,
Life all the time when I like think through
yeah.
what do churches have to say, and the song Overcome, and just the story that, like, they had this tragedy at their church and they sang through that, and that was for their church in that moment, but
Mm,
then God released that song to the world, and how many people it's impacted. And so that's not going to happen every time, but I
uh,
think what's important to think through is everybody has some sort of struggle, or they're going through something, or maybe your church looks like another church and y'all are dealing with the same thing. What is it that you want to share? What is it that you want to connect with people? Because worship music shouldn't just be this thing that we just kind of like regurgitate all the time. Like, it needs to have connection, and people really need
mm,
to feel that what they're singing and saying is true, and they feel that connection to the Lord and the Holy Spirit. So I think the story piece of it is a major thing. Of, do you have something that you feel like you need to share? I don't know. I think
yeah.
that's a big one. I think even through projects that we do, or it's, you can put out music all day long, but what are people going to connect to? Because there's so much music that's being released every day. Like,
Yeah.
we both know that there's not a shortage of new music. What is special about your music and your story that is going to connect to people? So the connectivity story piece is a big thing.
Yeah, the latest number is 100,000 songs a day being
Yeah.
uploaded. It's mind-boggling. Like, how do you? Nobody can even consume that kind of that amount of music.
No.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, to make sure that there's a reason for you to put all that effort into releasing something, and you have to really be clear on that, because
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of times, worship leaders and churches can feel discouraged too when they maybe write one song and they release that one song, and everything's just like reliant on that one
Yeah.
song, and
Yeah.
then nothing happens to that song. So let's say a church writes a bunch of songs, narrows it down, and is releasing it maybe one song at a time, and then it turns into like an EP. How would you go about like marketing and promoting each release? Just some big picture ideas,
Mhm.
because I think unfortunately most independent churches and artists that I see, basically the release date comes and then it's kind of like, oh shoot, we should probably talk about it, we should probably run ads, and there's like no plan ahead of time as far as like marketing goes.
Yeah.
And fortunately, in the world we live in today, there's so much noise. There's like tens of thousands of ads and messaging, thrown at us. So if you don't do anything intentionally, the odds are very slim that
Yeah.
anybody's going to notice. So
Mhm. Yeah, I think what I've learned lately, and just maybe over the past like couple years, especially since 2020, is that you got to be consistent about what you're talking about. So let's say a church decides to put a song out, and maybe it leads into something. So you're going to have a song one month, and then the next month, and then a third single, and then an EP. It's get creative with the content that you're building around it. I think a lot of people forget about that, and
Mm.
they will just maybe put a graphic up or post a couple times that it's available now. But the more discoverable you can be across social media, the better. So
Mm.
my thing is like, all right, we have this song. Let's make 20 pieces of content and let's put the audio in it, but each piece of content is different. And
Mm.
so when people are watching and listening, they're hearing, but they're seeing a new piece of content. So they're still able to recognize, oh, what is this song? I keep seeing content around that. So, and I know that's not necessarily feasible for every church or every artist, but I think there's ways that you can get super inspired by making content. Um, just like look at short form content and go see maybe some of your favorite artists or worship movements or churches that are making Instagram posts or
Mm.
TikToks or that I feel like there's an unlimited amount of ways you can connect with people online.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be my biggest thing. The other part of it too is having video, I think is so important. I don't think that you
Mm.
can actually put out music anymore without a video element. I think you
Mm.
can, but the impact of having a video connected
Yeah.
to the audio is just going to take it even further. So if you're recording in your church, just set up, if you don't have the means to do like a big shoot, just set up a couple cameras, even if it's just you with an empty congregation or like sanctuary, or you have a small congregation, but at least have some visual element to where you can cut up that, post that to socials, make a YouTube video out of it. I think there's value. You want to be discoverable wherever you can, and so there's value to having YouTube, like a video out on YouTube or
Yeah.
wherever it is. Because I don't really think, other than maybe Twitter, there's not a platform that doesn't support or that doesn't like push video.
Yeah.
Everything's pretty video driven now, so the simple things like making a video, make an acoustic little version of it, in a
Mm.
stairwell. Like you see so many people
Yeah.
doing that. And it doesn't have to be this big production. I do think that there's value in audio quality, even if you have just like a little microphone or something where you can get some good audio quality. But people are so forgiving for an iPhone video, they're so
Yeah.
used to it that something like that seems so simple. And it really is. All you need to do is just go to Amazon and get a little external mic and set it up. But definitely be thinking through like the consistency of how you're talking about it. And back to the story piece, is there a story associated with the song? One of the things that I think could be really cool for churches who, if they're small communities or large, but if there's testimonies in your church about the song, I think about
Mm.
Thrive Worship and how um, in one of their songs, Pour Your Spirit Out, Corbin literally sings his testimony of being healed in a church.
Mm.
And there could be something like that that actually happened to a church member. And so being able to share that, ask them, like, hey, would you be willing to like sit down and talk to us about that? Because it correlates so much with the song that we think that this could have a major impact and that people would be blessed by hearing your testimony. So involving your congregation is another big thing. Getting your
Yeah.
people excited about it, because if anybody's going to get excited about a new release, it's going to be the church that's releasing it. And so having
Mm.
those people talk about it is super impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good advice. I think in the digital marketing world and social media marketing world, we would call it user generated content, UGC, like even encouraging your congregation to post,
Hmm.
testimony on their own platform, and then you use it on your, worship platform.
Yep.
Um, and we've actually done a lot of video shoots together over the years, and a lot of church resource type videos. And I think there is something to that, where if you can really resource the church, the local churches, to be able to hear and like envision the song, in their church context. And even, we've done some videos where it was like, here's a video from the songwriter sharing about like how to introduce the song,
Yeah.
at your church. And it's like almost like a mini Devo video,
Mhm.
scripture and stuff, but like really making sure you can create as many resources as possible to like add those tools into their tool belt, so that there's as least amount of like barriers to a worship leader introducing your song at their church. So yeah, I think that's really good. As far as advertising, like digital ads, or I don't know if you guys do print ads, but what's your take on advertising?
Yeah, I think advertising is important. If you're a smaller artist, sometimes it's hard to cut through the noise and to gain an audience through advertising because no one really knows who you are, right? So I kind of look at it as like, do what you can to gain an organic following. And once you've kind of gotten this organic following, then you start running ads, and people will be driven to your platform to see, oh, there's X amount of people that like this band. Why should I like this band? So then they start looking through your feed to see, oh, yeah, I do. And then you get another follow or you get a listen. It's going to, advertising is even hard, across socials just to get people's attention because there's so much that's happening. And you think
Yeah.
not only are you having to push through music ads, you're having to push through retail ads, you're having to push through travel ads, like anything that you might be interested in.
Yeah.
Now there's another genre competing for your attention. So I don't know that I would say like ads are like a must when you first start out because you might not be getting the value that you could if you had a bigger following. Um, but I think there's something to like making sure that you are everywhere, but not necessarily having to pay for that. I think that organic content has to start first, and people have to trust you before you start pushing ads out to people.
Mm.
We do print ads a little bit, not a ton, but it depends on the goal. If like we have something that's very driven to musicians, then we might partner with somebody who's really focused on musicians. Or if we have something that's we really want to focus on worship leaders, we might partner with somebody who's very focused on worship leaders.
Mm.
So even just connecting, I think there's a piece of like positioning whoever it is on this album or this song, to just kind of take the step and reach out to people and see if you can do interviews and talk about the things that you're doing. And an email list is a good thing too,
Mm.
or texting. Texting is something that we've gotten into lately. I know we're kind of getting
Oh,
off the topic of ads, but text, like we've grown a texting list, and we're just like talking to people who love Bethel music, and we're like, what's up, like we've got new
mm.
stuff coming out, like we want you guys to hear it first. And connecting with the people who are excited about what you're doing. So even in your church, you put up like a QR code and with a text, like a little phone number to text, and then you're getting those people in your bank to essentially talk to them all the time and get them hype about what you're doing. But back to the ads thing, because I definitely got off track.
No, that was
I
very
don't,
good stuff.
yeah, I don't know if ads are just like the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
But there's some importance to them. But I think you kind of have to get past the threshold for it to really
Mm.
add value to what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that you actually brought up email and text, because I think advertising tends to be more of like a short-term solution of like, let's blast this out, get in front of a bunch of people, get impressions in. when you talk about email and text marketing, you're really talking about like cultivating a community, which is a
Mm,
long-term strategy. And I think a lot of churches tend to think too short-term,
mm,
where they have a community, they don't have an email list that's built out. So, and I think texting is really effective because most people actually are gonna look at the text. Most people like check their text messages way more than email even. Uh, have you found like a good email marketing or text marketing platform? Or I don't know if you guys do both on the same platform.
yeah, I know when I was in Integrity, we used club texting.
Oh yeah.
And now we're using a platform called Community,
Oh yeah.
and it's been pretty user friendly so far. It's very easy to sign up, and you can customize it, which is really cool. But that's what we've been using for our text, and then we use Mailchimp
Cool.
for all of our email sends, which again is very user friendly. And
Cool.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I think those are all really important aspects and things to really like think about, as you're preparing for a release. And I think, each church context and like budget situation is going to be different. So yeah, I think you have to weigh like, what's important, what can we do now versus what can we
yeah.
do in the future, maybe that you should plan for later. What are you excited about in 2023?
Hmm. Man, well, we have an album coming out, so that's really exciting. Um, and that's kind of like the that's like my first real big Bethel music project that I've gotten to
Mm,
be a part of. We released Bethel Music Comp project, I will say. Like we released artist projects, and then we had the Simple album that came out. And the Simple album was really beautiful because it was simple. It was so like stripped back and so different from what I think Bethel music listeners are used to. They're used to like the
mm,
live, energetic, like Holy
yeah.
Spirit filled room, all the like the moments. And Simple was really just like a representation of reverence to the Lord and kind of stripping back all of the noise. So that one was really special, and I think it led into Come Up Here really beautifully because now it's like we've gone from the simple to this invitation from the Lord to meet Him, and so
Mm,
I'm how it all just weaves together is one of the coolest things for me, and so I'm really excited about this project. Um, it was recorded in the middle of the forest, so
oh wow.
that was one of the craziest things to be a part of. And it's just got like these insane songs on it. So I'm really excited about that.
Mm,
And just like building our community and building our team. And yeah, we've got some events happening this year. And this will be the first year that I get to be a part of like the big Heaven Come event.
mm,
And we'll do worship school again. So those are just we're touring a lot, and so we're out on the road, we're putting out music, and it just feels really good to kind of be back in the swing of things outside of the madness of 2020 and
yeah.
um, just to kind of do like we're doing what we always love to do and
Mm,
kind of getting back into that routine, and that momentum feels really good. So I'm excited.
yeah.
I'm excited about a lot, but right now my focus has Come Up Here, that album that's coming out.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm really excited about that.
Sweet. You briefly mentioned TikTok, and
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your prediction for TikTok in 2023?
Ooh, what is my prediction? Dang, that's hard. I feel like we're gonna see a lot more. Like we've seen a lot of artists break from TikTok,
Mm,
but I've I think over the past couple of years watching like mainstream artists kind of bloom through TikTok, I feel like in the worship space and the Christian space that can happen. And so I'm kind of excited to see if that does happen.
mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope TikTok stays around because I just get so consumed and I just start I'm like, I need to get off this app. This is bad. This is my new Instagram. But a lot of new talent, I think, coming from
Mm,
TikTok, and like in the most authentic way, not something that's
yeah.
super um, just like calculated, but seeing some like real raw talent come from TikTok, I think is going to happen.
Uh, so do you feel like churches should be utilizing TikTok with their music?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny. We have a song from the Homecoming album that is called Back to Life that Zaria Zachary leads. And it, to my knowledge, I don't think it was a single. Like, it's just, it's a cut on an album, and it's an insane song. And her vocal, like, she's one of the most powerful singers I've ever heard. And
Mm,
all of a sudden, we're starting to see these TikToks pop up of the spontaneous moment that she had at the end of it. And now people are using that part of the song to like share their testimony of their life before God and
oh,
now
wow.
they know Christ. So that was one of the things I was like, whoa, this is insane. And I think churches could really take something like that as an example,
Mm,
put their music on TikTok, or even create their own like TikTok videos with audio, like original audio, and then just let it roll and let trends happen, because
mm,
trends are inevitable, like they're gonna happen. And it could be that your song gets picked up for a trend. So I definitely think churches should be on TikTok, and like let your youth do it. Like if you're like, oh, I don't, TikTok's not for me, like let some like teenage, like high schooler be the one to take it on as a project. Because I think too, it's just there's, especially if you're just kind of like worshiping and you're doing your thing, there's so many moments that could connect with people. I mean, there's a thousand, Christian TikTokers out there that are super successful and have reached a lot of people. And I think just maybe even again, not like comparing or doing the same thing as them, but taking inspiration and just encouraging, finding an audience on TikTok. So that, yeah, I'm excited to see more churches become a part of TikTok, because I think that
mm,
like that worship community and that church community could grow even stronger and really encourage people.
yeah. So before I let you go, I have one last question
Okay.
because I've really appreciated just working together your like purity in worship and wanting to like the real motivation of like why you do what you do. So I would love for you to share why why do you do this? Like why do you work in marketing? Why are you at Bethel Music doing marketing? Why are
Mhm.
you in Christian music?
Yeah. Um, I've watched songs transform people's lives and really turn situations around. And when I kind of was trying to navigate and figure out what I wanted to do with my life, worship music was a major part of that.
Mm,
And I was going through a season with my family that was really hard, and kind of, I would never say that I lost my way, but I think it was just like, what is life? What is this thing that we're doing? And I was always drawn back to worship music. And so I I've watched how it's transformed my life. I've watched how it's transformed other people's lives, and to be able to wake up every day and know that something that you have had a hand in could bring people to Jesus is really rewarding for me.
mm,
And living in Nashville, there's a lot of opportunity to go work in different genres or at different labels. And I've always wanted to be a part of something that was ministry focused, and
mm,
um, just really felt like the Lord had his hand in it. And so for me, that's why it's always been worship, is
mm.
because I've always felt connected to it. I know the power of it, and I want to help facilitate what I can for people to have that same experience.
Yeah. Wow. That's good. Yeah, I'm sure you've had this same experience multiple times. But yeah, like over the years, it was really humbling to like walk into just a normal Sunday morning service somewhere at a church I've never been to, and they were singing one of the songs that we were promoting. You know, like we spent a lot of time and energy getting it out there to
Yeah.
churches, and like that shows the power of like marketing and power
Mhm.
of what the whole like system is set up for.
Yeah.
Is, I mean, yeah, there's a business side to it, but ultimately, hopefully, most people that are in this are doing it because they want to see the gospel, reach the masses and go where, and especially the power of music,
Mhm.
is going to reach people that maybe a sermon would never be able to reach. So yeah. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for your time. It's still really weird to see Hill after your first name, but congratulations on getting married,
Thank
on a
you.
new role. And yeah, it's awesome to see you thrive.
Thank you. I appreciate it.